Okay guys, so like on this week's training we're hitting some little basic kind of footwork drills for our stand-up. You know, when to throw basically your very, very simple basic combinations to keep the guy off you. You know, before maybe we go for the tackle or it gets more involved on our feet. We look at, on this section, like just your foot pad, okay, just how to carry the feet, how to move, all that kind of stuff, how to carry your arms. And then maybe we do a couple more as we go, just because people are asking, and you know, we don't cover our stand-up with punches too much, like in the jiu-jitsu class, which gets me on to, you know, like let's, if you have the opportunity, try and jump in on the Thai boxing class on a Wednesday, you know, where you get a deeper understanding of like how to do your stand-up a little bit more involved. But basically what we're talking about is, first of all, setting your feet. So, you know, with every fighting art comes a rule set generally. So for their rule set, they have stances that are better for that rule set. Okay. You know, so a boxer would be more side on, you know, maybe a Thai boxer a little bit squarer, maybe like other martial arts, I don't know, like could be a multitude of things. I tend to think like maybe the middle road is good if you're going to go between punching, defending tackles, even into your like grappling stuff, your judo or whatever. So talking about like almost like 50-50 on your balance, so both legs, you know, have equal weight distribution. Me personally, I like to throw both feet out at the same angle. There are different opinions. So if you have your toes facing forward on your front leg, you know, it opens up the kicks a bit more. But what I find, like, if you have your toes facing this way, it covers the groin a little bit. You know, we're talking about groin shots. It's just like a position where you can comfortably put 50-50 on. It's not signed and sealed. There's so many different patterns of movement, but just on a basic, I think it's a good concept. So 50-50 on the weight. My feet are on 2 railway tracks, okay? We never want to come like a position like this where we're standing behind, so our balance is really weird, okay? Which brings us on to probably the first step of all your footwork once you've got your comfy kind of position, okay? Is like how to initiate movement. So basically, it's a really easy concept. If I'm going left, I move my left leg first, okay? If I'm going right, my right leg goes first. If I'm going forward, forward leg. If I'm going backwards, back leg. And often with the forward and backward motion particularly, but also with the side, you kind of drag the following leg. So I step, and I kind of a little bit like dragging it along the floor. Okay? Just to stay connected, so we're not kind of bouncing around and losing our feet position. So that is a really good drill in itself, you know, just like getting yourself kind of used to kind of moving, stepping, and keeping on them 2 railway tracks always with your feet, and just kind of change the pattern of footwork up. Okay, as we go. You know, I was saying in the class on, I think on Saturday, or maybe the other class, that it's often a good idea to get in front of a mirror, because what we perceive sometimes in our heads we're not actually doing. So when you look in a mirror, you see like, oh man, I keep doing this, or I keep spinning, or my hands are down, or whatever. It's a really good training tool. It's not just being vain, don't worry. It's a good thing. Okay, so like hand positions with our footwork. So in my opinion, the right hand is the key to your defense. Okay? We have like the liver shot here, which is one of the worst you can get. Like, I mean, kidney's bad too, but the liver shot is horrible. And if you watch a lot of kickboxing or Thai boxing, a lot of the knockouts are on this side of the body. Because when the guy throws a jab or something, they tend to like drop hands, and then the guy throws a kick, boom, we get cracked. So keeping your hand like this up against your body, and we don't want to be like that. so our body's open. Okay, so it's not like cover your head, it's cover your body and then tuck your chin into your hand sort of thing. So now I have like a position where if I get kicked, my arm and my body is going to absorb the kick a little bit. So, you know, in some martial arts, they hold their elbows out so they can catch a kick. But that takes quite a high level of conditioning on your body to be able to catch a kick, even if you step away from it, you know, like, so, you know, if you're conditioned, that's great. If you're not so conditioned, like sometimes this is a better option, like just to, you know, like just keep it safe. And the other aspect of that is if I don't see the shot coming and my elbows are like this, goodbye, it's kind of, but if I don't see it coming, my elbow's here, at least I've got something, okay? It's kind of finding that middle ground again. Like the more elite fighters will do that to show you the gap and you throw the strike and they, you know, they're setting you up. But, you know, for most people, this is a good idea, okay? So now we have our right hand step. We have our feet set, 50-50, 2 railway tracks. My left hand is slightly in front of my right hand, okay? And this is like your parry and your jab kind of hand position. This is one of the keys to your attacking, okay? So if you think of your jab like, let's say like, not as a punch as such, but as a distance judgment. Okay, so all the time I'm here, I'm looking distance, where is the guy in relation to me, okay? And you can increase and decrease the power of your jab. Often you want it quite snappy and fast kind of thing, but sometimes you might want to step your front leg, bang, like, you know, try and put something into it. Either or, they're both good concepts, but pretty much it's a distance thing. So if you add that into your footwork pattern, so we have 50-50 balance, 2 railroad tracks, hand up defending our position here, like on the liver kick, and tucking my chin in, my right hand slightly in front, okay, and then we're starting to kind of do our footwork pattern, like here, keeping nice and tight on the position here, okay, and then as you walk forward you can add your jab, okay, add your jab, 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 okay, and just really loosen up with the footwork and your jabbing position. Okay, video over. Thank you guys. Okay guys, so we have our footwork pattern down. Okay, now we're going to concentrate on like how to move and throw the punches. And there's, you know, like on our basic footwork pattern that we did on the previous kind of video, there's a punching kind of timing for that footwork. But often we're in the heat at the moment, there's also a footwork pattern that we're going to add, which is like micro steps, okay? So this is a really important concept in fighting. So imagine, we do the connection of the punches in a minute, we just look at our footwork pattern again. So let's imagine we're here and we do like a proper step, like your big step, okay? Your big step, your big step. Big step, okay, and that's pretty much, I'm moving myself like say a foot each time. You don't want to go much more than that. Mostly, you know, there's some occasions where you might really lunge in, but not very often. Okay, so it's kind of, you know, like a foot change of distance, okay, and that's great. And we can add our punches onto that position, you know, like here, just nice and steady, like we was talking about on the first concept of using our footwork. But sometimes a full step is too much, okay, or maybe even not enough, especially when you're going backwards. So we need to be at a micro step. So what I mean by that is just like a small little adjust, small little adjust, small little. Often it's like a backwards, forwards, and then a big movement. Okay, you can add this in. So if you watch like actually Tyson Fury. If you follow boxing, he's real good at this, like with his micro adjusting. And he does like a lot of feints. He like feint his foot, but he's kind of micro adjusting his feet to gauge distance. And it's one of the things I like to talk about when we're talking footwork is your front leg, as well as your jab in hand, is your distance judge. So you know, you can kind of see where the guy's footwork is. So imagine like there's a line, or if you're working with a partner, that's cool, you can see his feet. And when your foot is in a certain range, you know, boom, I can throw that punch, or I could throw that punch. And it's kind of big step, and then maybe it's not enough, so you just make a little micro adjustment. And often it's this, like that little kind of rock of changing your body weight backwards and forwards. So, and I just move an inch, but that inch is enough to give me a powerful shot on him, or evade his shot if I need to sort of go backwards. So on top of like your footwork drills where you're just moving it, then like it's just like a little micro adjustment on your technique, like either way, and you might have to kind of do a couple either way, just to, and then maybe like the big step, and just change the stepping pattern a little bit, so it's not like 1 foot each time you throw the step, it's them little micro adjustments every time. And sometimes when you do that as well, you can like, you know, like drop your shoulder, turn your hip a little bit, give the guy a different look without really committing to anything. So if I was here, like in front of my partner, my hands here, you know, and you drop your hip, the guy thinks the kick's coming, maybe he puts his hand down, boom, I can hear him over the top. There's that little hip one, you know, things like that, or the other side, like drop my shoulder, the guy thinks we're tackling, boom, you bring up your shot through the middle. That's how we kind of fake the guy into the position without committing ourselves to the movement too much. But this thing of micro stepping, something to work on constantly. Okay, it's one of them things that it's what do I say, like it's a perishable skill. Okay, if you don't constantly work at it, it gets worse. Okay, so you get it to a certain level and you go, yeah, I'm good at that. But then you have to keep going, otherwise it starts decreasing in its effectiveness. Okay, so every time we're here, hands up, just your little micro adjustments on your footwork, doing the same kind of footwork patterns, but changing the distance, just getting nice and loose on the position here. Throw the frame, throw the hip, throw the punch, like nice and loose. Here, just throw it in, boom. Little bob, gets quite aerobic, but wicked drill. And if you learn the micro steps, the normal steps, dropping your shoulder, dropping your hip, you're well on your way to having like a solid foundation for your stand-up. Okay, so we have our footwork down a little bit better, and now we want to start throwing the jabs. So first of all, there's many ways to throw the jab. Okay, same as I said before, like when you first start, maybe it's best to find the middle ground of, you know, the rule sets, and throw the puncher somewhere walking in the middle. So you're going to be safer in all the rule sets, if you know what I mean. Like it's going to kind of bow for you well. So with your punching, there's a couple of concepts. The first one, I talk about this loads when we do punching, and that's what we call falling in. Okay, so say I throw a punch and my head follows it. So you see this a lot, especially actually with the right hand. People throw a right hand like that. And it is confusing because there is actually a kind of overhand right where you do bring your head forward, but it's a different concept. You have to get your head off the center line to throw that shot. But people throw like this and their head follows, or even they're doing their footwork and their head's a little bit forward like this. This is called falling in, okay? And anyone that has a measure of boxing will be looking for a guy that falls in with his head. And that's an easy target for like the short range punches, which generally, you know, are hard punches, like a big right hook or a big left hook and a smashing uppercut. Generally, we don't want to get hit with them ones. So what we have to do is try not to fall in with the punch. So it becomes like not like a top half kind of position. It becomes a leg position or a hip position, okay? So you imagine like I'm on a posture like this and I have my stance. Instead of trying to generate power with my shoulders to the crease, what I want to do is start to rotate my hips like both ways, like here. And you have to go between ball of the foot on the front leg ball of the foot on the back leg to get like that full rotation. Okay. So I try and keep my body as upright as possible, like center line, like there's a pole. Okay, so we're not falling off the pole, we're staying nice and steady. If I transfer my weight to the back, look, my front leg can go on the ball of the foot, my hips can rotate. Okay. If I start to go back to the middle, look, my weight goes back onto my front leg. Now I start to turn my hip the other way and the weight goes onto my front leg. My back leg then becomes the leg that I can put the ball of the foot on the floor. And often this is where a lot of the power comes in your right hand, is I want to push that hip forward. You see that, like, that hip movement there, and it's generated from the ground. Okay, and I'm kind of pushing from my foot to my knee, and my knee is generating my hip movement forward. Okay. This is really key to understand because it adds a quarter power onto your punch instead of just being like an arm punch. Okay, so on a basic drill, like if we go weight to the back leg, look, I can rotate my hip. Okay, weight to the front leg, my hip rotates all the way through, and I'm kind of clenching my glutes. Okay, just to kind of engage the hip and almost like pushing forward. Okay. And then we're back to that neutral position. Okay. So if you think about like a rotational position, when I throw my jab, like I want to turn my hip slightly this way, okay, to get power into my jab, so my hip generates a little bit more power, okay, but also gives me a little bit of distance on the punch, okay, because my hip's going forward. Okay, you imagine like I'm back here and I throw a jab, it's there. When I start to throw my hip, it goes another 1.5 inches, 2 inches further on the reach. And we want a long jab generally, okay? So, rotation, one, and my weight's more here, but still, you know, say like, I don't know, my math's not too good, but, you know, most of the weight is on the back, or like on the back leg, but we still got a little bit here, still connected, okay? So we're here, one, okay? When I want to throw the backhand, my hand's nice and tight, so we're not going to wing it around the side, we're going to go straight down the pipe. Okay, so from here, look, I start to rotate my hip, the foot digs into the floor, generates power to my knee, which engages my hip, and I clench my glutes to get the punch all the way through. Okay. With throwing any punch, the retraction of the punch is just as important as like the hip. Okay, so you have to come the same way back. So the punch, and back, and rotate my hip to get my hand back. If you get in the habit of punching and then drop, like this happens a lot, people punch and drop, becomes really messy, and then when you get someone that's good, they're just going to pick you apart, okay? So this hip movement is key for us to go along with that footwork. So you imagine like you step forward with your footwork, you want to throw the jab, just transfer my weight to the back leg, boom, I can throw my jab, nice and easy, okay? Just nice and secure. My body stays kind of pretty much where it is. I'm just rotating my hips. Okay. I want to throw the right hand. Okay. Maybe we'll throw a micro step in there. Okay. And then look, that engages my back leg. Ball of the foot pushing, engage the knee, start to push the hip through. Wow. And I get a nice shot here. Okay. So on like a front rotation view, we're here. One. Just rotating, and you can see like from this front thing, I'm looking into the camera and it actually looks like I'm leaning into because my reach is increasing because of my hip. Okay, so I'm just going here, one, and then back, and we're in our good posture. Throwing the right hand, look, I engage that foot on the floor, my hip rotates, and see this drop here, one, and it's dropping this way and like a forward motion, so we're like pushing our hip forward. And it kind of throws my hand into the punch, okay? So we're here, nice and tight, rotate for the jab, backwards, start to let that hip go. And you see like my hand drops to the middle and I'm punching straight down the middle. So you don't see my punch going like this, okay, round like an overhand right. I'm here, look, I go to the center line, pop, and you just see like almost just the fish. You don't see my elbow going out to punch you or anything. It's just a straight punch. Okay. Same with the jab. Look, straight punch. One right hand. Look, hand to the middle. Boom, down the pipe. Okay. Hip engaged, foot on the floor, pressing. and then on the way back, we get our position here. Okay, so once we get that kind of basic rotation, and like I say, once you've got a foundation for your technique, you've got a reset, then you can adapt. Okay, because there's lots of other ways to throw the jab, but this is the fundamental way to get it correct. Okay, after that you can adapt, and like once you've got that down, then you know things can slightly change depending on the experience, and there's a lot of like really high level strikers that do, you know, slightly different to that pattern, but they all learn that pattern to get to where they are. Okay, you can't just jump up to the second floor without a ground floor. Do you know what I mean? You need the ground floor to support you. This is why we learn the basics. This is what it kind of gives us that foundation to climb. Okay, so just nice and easy. If you want to practice like your movement patterns, get like here, okay, and then your rotation of your punches, just nice. Doesn't even have to be fast, okay? And then your little micro steps into a jab, into a punch, into a punch. Okay. Everyone good? Whoosh. Okay, so one of the other techniques that we've been practicing, or will be practicing this week, is 3 kind of basic guard retention kind of concepts that we started on Saturday. And pretty much we're not going to change it up too much. We're just going to get slicker at doing these positions. So we're talking about like being flat on the back and having our partner attacking our guard position. So quite a lot of the time, if I start to extend my legs forward, it offers my partner kind of different passes than if my weight's back. So if my knees are back, often, you know, I might initiate a spin, or your partner might want to stack you from that position because your hips are light and maybe you might want to drive into that. If I start pushing my legs forward, I offer him like throwing legs to the side, or like a knee slide if you can pin that to the floor. So you have to have a kind of measure of what your partner can do, to have in your mind, like, on my legs here, he's going to probably go for this kind of attack. It just gives you an insight into what he's going to do, and maybe you'll be one step ahead of him. You know? But we're going to look at if the guy throws my leg to the side, and there's 3 kind of zones in this, if you like. So the first one is like just reckless throwing. Okay? Probably more like a lower grade guy would do, trying to like panic pass you. Okay, so they kind of try and throw your leg with no real structure to it, and your legs are kind of loose and able to move. Okay, so you imagine like the concept of your hip will roll as the guy throws the leg, and say he's throwing my left leg, which is this one, to my right side. Okay, so he's trying to put my legs like this so he can pass to my back, basically. So he's just throwing the leg, there's no real pressure on my leg. Okay, so as my leg starts to go this way, you see like the bottom leg, my right leg, makes contact on the floor first of all. Okay, so straight away we have a base. Okay, we have our leg connected. As we roll, my shoulder then connects. Okay, on the bottom shoulder. Okay, which now means I have like a lineal line of base, which I can start to lift my hip off the floor. Okay, to move and recover guard, I have to be light on my hips. Okay, I can't be flat on my hips at this point. So we're here, I start to go on my shoulder, and I use this leg just to elevate my hip. Okay. What I find here is if I can bring my knee back, like towards my chest, okay, it's a really good position, like defensive. If the guy is throwing anything at this point, like punches wise, or trying to make a grip, I have my hands up, and it's a very defensive position. So as my leg starts to go, look, my foot hits the floor, my shoulder starts to engage, I close the space, it's knee to elbow. Okay. Once I'm there, look, it's a little hip escape, back to that neutral position, and then bring the other knee up to the thumb. Okay, and then we're back, looking for probably either his knee or his hip to put one leg on at least. You know, and then looking for like grips or whatever we're going to do. Okay. So we're here, the guy starts to throw, Okay, my leg hits the floor, my shoulder starts to engage. I bring that knee up, with the fan, back to this position. Game on, we're still 2 feet in front of our partner. He's nowhere near passing our guard for a really easy technique there. Position 2 is if he puts a bit more force on the position, so he throws my leg to the floor, but maybe keeps his arm on your knee and kind of pins it. So really to escape this position, I need to free the bottom leg. Okay. So sometimes, like when he's pinning that top leg, you try and get your bottom leg out, and it doesn't quite release because the front leg's blocking. So it's just like a little hip escape out. Okay. So not like away. I just want to move my hip out a little bit. Okay. Bring my knee through. Okay. So same thing. I'm covering the position here. But I want to come here and then start to rotate that knee up to the ceiling. You see, as I do that, it brings my hip to that neutral position. Okay. Mostly, I want to get something in front of my partner's body. So quite often here is his shoulders. Because when they commit to that grip, his shoulders lean forward a little bit. So as I get to this position, I kind of rotate again, put my foot up onto his shoulder, push him away, and then go back to the neutral position with both feet on his, hopefully on his hips or shoulders or, knees, whichever I can get really. So we're at this point here, the guy throws the leg. Okay, and this time he's pinning, like imagine like he's just trying to pin that leg to the floor. Okay. From here, little hip escape out to clear the space so I can bring this leg through. As I bring the leg through, we rotate that knee up, which brings my hips level to the floor. Okay. Once we're here, another hip escape, throw the leg over onto his shoulders, onto his shoulders, and then that neutral position, back to being kind of with both feet on his hips or shoulder. The third position is like the one everyone dreads. Okay? It's like the Granby roll or like the inversion position. And you use this one like if you're really funky with defending guard, or if both legs are trapped and there's no way you can get your legs free. Okay, so you imagine like the guy really pins you down to the floor and there's just no chance of a hip escape to free the bottom leg. Maybe he's really pinned that front leg to the floor and just no amount of movement is going to get that leg free. So now we have to kind of tuck up into a ball and invert the position. Okay. So what that means is I want to roll across my shoulders to like the opposite side of his body often. Like it's almost like we're rolling across in front of him to the other side of his body. So as he pins my leg, I want to fold my bottom arm close to my body. Okay, this is key. Okay, and what you'll find is if you can start to bring that elbow really into your hip space and then start to crunch your body towards your knee. Okay, and what happens is now your weight's kind of on your arm and you can almost use that as a jack to lift your hips up in the air. The key ingredient really is to keep your head tucked in. So often with the top hand, it's a good idea to look for a reach position. Actually, Alfie sort of said this in a video that he showed, and it really helps visualize the technique, and it puts you in the right place for the movement if you reach with that top hand. It's a really good little trick if you've not actually got a partner there to gauge sort of power and momentum, if you know what I mean. So we tuck in the elbow, okay. Start to raise up, and we lift our hips up in the air and tuck our heads in. Okay. And then we go to what we call inversion position here. Okay. So we're kind of upside down. Okay. And what we want to do to get to the other side is just complete that roll. Okay. So we're here, we invert, okay. One, and we just roll to the other side. And quite often what happens is as you roll, your leg will shoot in for a De La Riva position on the other side of his body. It's quite hard to relate to if you have no reference to that, but a lot of the more experienced people will understand what I'm talking about in regards to the De La Riva position. So one more time, all three positions. Okay. So we're here, okay, the guy throws the leg, but there's no real danger of him squashing me here. So here, tuck up, use the bottom leg as your adjustment, Push for your hip escape, bring knee to chest, back, get a nice position with both legs. Position 2, okay, he's a bit more aggressive this time, pinch the front leg, okay. Little hip escape to bring the leg through, okay, I return all the way to the other side, put my foot on his hip, shoulder, sorry. Once I push, it will engage like a little bit of power. I bring myself back to that neutral position. We're back to ready to go. Final one, the dreaded grabby roll. Okay. He pinches both legs to the floor. Okay. I bring my elbow in. Okay. Try to elevate myself here. So you'll see my feet are on the floor at this point. But the key ingredient, move your head. Don't try and leave the head out and roll like this. Okay, or you just go belly down and get squashed. So reach in with that top arm. Okay. Encourage you to bring your head to your knee. Okay. Once you're here, use your feet to get your hips nice and high. So we go upside down. And then we just roll all the way to the other side. I'm not the most graceful guy at the Granby roll, okay, but for Jiu-Jitsu, it's a key ingredient of your guard defense. Okay, it's not one where you can leave out kind of thing, or like my body type doesn't allow. It's not one of them. Okay, we need to be able to do that movement, even if it's just rudimental, you know, and you just understand how to do it, and you can do it worst case scenario kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Might not be every day that you're wanting to roll like that, but or every spar you might. That's not the game plan. Maybe for some people. For some it is. Some people love that kind of movement. But it's definitely one that I need to know emergency, like get out of dodge, like get out of trouble. Let's go for the Granby. Excellent, guys. That's it for a couple of videos for this week. I'll try and over the next few weeks, or overall the training really, I'll try and just engage a few bits that we're talking about over the week, post them on the app, and you know, for people who maybe aren't making as many classes, or it's just a little bit of information to catch up if you want to practice at home. You know, with the stand-up stuff, you know, for sure, try and mirror, like really try and educate yourself on stuff, because you know, every kind of encounter starts on your feet. So having that basic concept of distance on your feet is key. You might not be like an amazing puncher or anything like that, but if you can control distance, you don't need to be a great puncher, because the guy won't get to you. And then he'll overcommit and you'll get your takedown. Or equally, you might be a really good puncher, and then if you can control distance as well, wow, I mean, you have like something that, you know, is going to be very, very difficult to get you in a clinch, because you already can pepper the guy before he gets near you. Go away and practice, guys. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of the Sunday. Us. Okay guys, so now we have like a basic one-step pattern, so we can move, you know, our foot distance either way, forward, backwards, side, side. We have our execution of the micro step, so we're going one step forward and then your little micro step to adjust that final little bit, just tighten the screw on your partner. Then we have like our basic hip movement to start to get our punches as hard as we can get them. And now, last kind of concept really on the stand-up that we look at with our feet, and then we hit into like trying to do the hooks, where we was on this Saturday's training. We was like working on like the 2 different variations of the hook, front and back leg kind of positioning. So the last concept of your footwork that we're going to work on this week is like getting off the center line. So a lot of the time in fighting we get drawn into linear lines, okay? So you start following, okay? So say I have this straight line on the mat here, you tend to, you walk forward on that line, and then you start to walk backwards on that line. And it is very comforting to get into that habit. You feel good doing that, like when there's no partner, because it's kind of easy to do, once your footwork pattern goes down. Trouble is to initiate defense and attack. The most important thing is to create angles. Okay, so if say I'm attacking and I'm just going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and we're walking in a linear line straight at our partner, he's just going to be like bop, 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 bop. It's going to be easy for him to like start to defend the position. So we have to start like pivot stepping a little bit, and there's, you can kind of say this in a few different ways. But say I'm orthodox, so I have my left leg forward, and I'm fighting a guy that's left leg forward too, so 2 orthodox fighters. Generally, I want my foot outside of his front foot, okay, which means I'll be on the outside of him, okay. You imagine like his bulk of his body is inside my leg space here. I want to be slightly to the side of him now, because I start to create an angle on him from that position. So tracing your foot to his front foot is like a key indicator of distance and my angle to attack, okay? So now we've got another concept coming into our footwork, okay? So let me put something on the mat. So say this is my partner's front foot, okay? His back foot's this side, okay? So if I'm approaching like my partner, like if my front leg's to the outside of his, okay, I have a better angle because I can just move this leg like a pivot step here, and I can punch him from an angle where he can't attack me. So with your footwork, you might jog into range, like on this position, throw your jab on that straight linear line, okay, and then that little outward motion, and you can confuse it with the punches. So you'll be here like punch, 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 and then I step off the line, okay. So I'm no longer on the center line, I'm on the outside of his body, slight angle on him, like 45 or whatever, and then we start attacking from different angles, okay. So against another orthodox fighter, that's exactly how I do. So his back leg's over here, okay, front leg's here. I just want to be on that outside position, and see like my pivot step on the front is really, really easy. It's kind of here. And you can do that like by transferring weight, okay? So it's almost like when you're punching here, you have a little dip on your front leg. When the weight goes on your front leg, it's easy to step it back, okay? So you kind of punch, one, but you have like options to throw more shots from that position. So jogging in, okay, throw a punch, your weight goes a little bit on your front, that I can step here, start to throw my shots, okay. Similarly on the back step, so if I'm going to pivot away from my partner, it's usually to create angles to escape. Sometimes it's punching. There's a technique called a check hook, which is a pivot step with a hook. But what we want to do generally is, as we're going backwards, start to step that back leg out to change the motion. So if my partner's chasing me, my hands are up, look, I'm changing the angle all the time, and then I might go back and pivot the other way if he follows me. Okay, so we're here, we're getting cornered, the guy's chasing us back. Okay, from here, look, a slight step out, and then I just change the angle on him, and then I change the other way, and then I change the other way. And it's it's a little bit like a zigzag. It's that thing where, you know, someone's shooting you with a gun, like running zigzag. I don't know if anyone's ever heard that. It's just my warped mind. But from here, it's creating a zigzag sort of position. So we get chased, we defend the position, and just change the angle, just change the angle, just change the angle. And make him reset all the time. So every time the guy has to reset, his punching is going to slow down. Okay, or kicking, whatever. So as he's punching, he has to change angle as well. He has to stop punching for a little bit to do that. That's my opportunity to either escape or throw a counter or create distance, you know, whatever we need to do. So here, going forward, punch, 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 like a little bit here, okay? So it's a slight step as my weight goes on my front leg, like just step, my angle changes, we're good to go, okay? Step, boom, boom. On the backwards, we get chased down, boom, I move, and then I move, and then I move. And it's transferring the weight from front leg to back leg to allow yourself to pivot in the direction you want to go. Same as what I said right at the start in the first video, is like whichever way I want to move, I move that leg first. So that same concept with your pivot steps. So I want to go right, okay, so when I okay, and we can just start to evade our position here. Okay, on the forward once more, one, step, one, one. And we're just changing angles, and you can kind of pivot step off here to create like angles on your partner all the time. And we're getting nice and loose and kind of funky with our stand-up. Always trying to keep your hands up. Always premium. Okay, thank you guys.